Hello everyone, welcome here at Your World of Mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And today I have Stephane here, all the way from Canada, Montreal, isn't it, Stephane?
Yes, it's Montreal, yes.
So Stephane, as an alien and a space girl, I'm really curious about what life is like around now on Earth. What is it like to be on Earth at this moment in time?
I think the answer depends on who you are. So as for me, life is such a beautiful journey, because I know that, I'm a soul that incarnated to live a human life. And, I see life as so beautiful. It took me 51 years to actually fall in love with me in my life. It took me a long time, but now that I'm living in that state, I see beauty everywhere. Now, the planet we're living on now is going through a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges from a climate point of view, from lots of focus on ego. And personally, my journey is to help people awake to what life is really like, so they can love life, they can love everyone, they can love, animals, and hopefully we can live heaven on earth, So life is going through challenges, but I think we have a huge potential to transform so we can actually create such a beautiful life.
I love the way you talk about the love part, because we believe, on my plan, we believe about that too. And in my experience, the more you fall in love with life and your own life, the more life unfolds in a magical way.
Yeah.
And these problems that you're currently experiencing on Earth, if people become more aware, do you think it will help if people become more aware?
I think it's it is the key. So to transform humanity, so humanity can not only survive but hopefully thrive, but also all living beings. Why should humanity thrive if all living human beings are suffering? And right now there's suffering from all species, not just humans, but all living beings. I think by raising our consciousness, we realize who we truly are and what the purpose of life is. A very wise teacher called Richard Barrett that I follow's teachings taught me that we incarnated as souls for 3 reasons. The number 1 is to fully express ourselves. The number 2 is to fully connect with other beings and other, humans. And number 3, to contribute to the evolution of humanity. And when I heard that, it gave a whole lot of sense to me in my life, because, I spent most of my career as a business person, a very senior business person, doing what business people do, making money. And at the same time, potentially creating suffering. And, living a life that is often empty, because money, we need money to buy whatever we need to eat and stuff, but it certainly doesn't bring joy. It brings maybe happiness, but it's all temporary. So that's it. So for me, my quest is to raise consciousness, to be a catalyst for the rise of consciousness in all people that trust me, all the people that I meet, because I know that heaven on earth is actually a level of consciousness, really. I don't want to get spiritual, but, Jesus said that heaven is all around you. You just can't see it. So my interpretation of that is life on earth is actually heaven. We just haven't realized it, So we keep waiting for this afterlife. And most people see life as suffering. It is only suffering because you're not willing to accept the way it actually is. If you accept life as it is, then it's paradise. It's so beautiful.
But I think what happens with a lot of us is we get attached to the suffering. And if I think of the world that I come from, people don't want to let go of the suffering. Even though the circumstances changed in the last 25 years, people still hold on to the suffering because it gave them identity. So how do you then get somebody, or how are you then the catalyst when somebody is so invested in their suffering?
I think the reason there's so much suffering is that most people don't understand the transformation process. When you look at biology, butterflies are born as caterpillars, and then through their imaginal cells, after a few weeks of eating, they have enough energy and they transform into these beautiful butterflies. I believe that humans, we also have these imaginal cells, even though we don't have them physically. We have all the seed to transform, except society is programmed us to believe that we're all ego, and the program believes that it's only about hard work and money and consumption, which is what society wants us to believe, because then we consume more and then all the big companies make more money. And I guess the governments can control the people through fear. So we live in a society that is really based on fear. And I believe that the true of life is that it's all actually based on love. So as you rise in consciousness, as you discover that, you know, you can lead your life with love, bring love everywhere. And what is love really? It's kindness, it's compassion, it's gratitude, it's connecting authentically with other people. Then you can basically completely recreate your life. You can create a life that is so magical that people would pay tons of money to go at Club Med to experience. You can actually live it every day in your own hometown. So, you know, I'm a human, so I have my own challenges, but, you know, Montreal right now, it's winter. But, you know, I woke up today, I had a long walk, I went to train, and I'm so energized. And I'm talking to you now. Tonight, I'm giving a conference on conscious leadership at a climate change conference. I mean, it's a blast. I'm going to have a beautiful day. I mean, there's nothing else I would be doing in my life, you know?
Yeah.
And I know you guys have a lot of good surfing in South Africa, but, you know, to be honest, I wouldn't trade my life, you know? I would love to go visit you, but I think it's to make people realize that they can actually create their life. They don't have to be victims. And I tell you, I measure my success by how many sparks I see in my client's eyes. You know, when I see the sparks, and then there's so much gratitude, I say, okay, this is worth millions of dollars for me. You know, because I can see now that this person will now take control and commit to transform their lives. You know, and it involves a lot of healing. You know, we have to go and look at our shadow and our healing and everything. But, you know, it gets to be really joyful because you get lighter. You know, you suddenly start to discover that, wow, I can actually create everything. You know, so that's my quest, and my secret sauce is the love, the unconditional love that I bring to people. So my endeavor is to love everyone I meet as if, you know, more than they've ever been loved before. And if I can do that really, really well, which is only possible because I love myself really good, then I think I can be, you know, create a really safe space for people to transform.
That was beautiful. And as I sense into what you just shared, when you speak about love, for us, it's love is about recognizing that divine being in the other. So it's unconditional. It's like you say, with unconditional love. You accept the person, but not only accepting, it's about love more. You truly see their potential inside of themselves, of that spark that you're speaking about. When people look in your eyes, that's only what I perceive, is then you are a mirror to them of their own spark. Because that spark is in your eyes. So it's magical. When they don't even really have to say a word. It's what we mirror to each other if we just become aware of it. So that's most beautiful. Thank you. So I love the way you're speaking about you getting up, we're now having this, and then you're going to speak at a conference. But there's flow, there's stuff going on. Even if you're quiet and you're resting and you're relaxing, whatever you do to just be with yourself, the being part, they still flow. It's like these imaginary cells that you're speaking about. I can feel them in my body flowing. So for me, that's life, being really alive. And so many people sadly just exist. And that's why your world of being a catalyst is so important, I think, at this time in history and her story, in both stories. So I believe also you have organization. The International Society?
International Center for Conscious Leadership, yeah.
So what is that about?
So I created that in March last year after a 29-year career as a senior businessman. And so what it is, the center is, we do three things. We organize large conferences. I call them conscious leadership summits around the world. So we've done Montreal, we're going to Quebec City, and I'm organizing one in London, and soon Paris, and maybe South Africa, you know, because I'm actually, a lot of people from Africa have reached out to me recently, Kenya, you know, many countries. So I'm saying that I think there's a need for what I do in South Africa. So we do that. We bring different types of speakers, and this one-day event, we don't necessarily help people transform, but we create at least an awareness, you know, awakening. Someone might, okay, there might be a spark in their eyes. They say, I want to know more. Then we do conscious leadership transformation workshops, you know, 2-day workshop with executive teams. And we allow them to go through the transformation journey. You know, look at your shadow, fears, limiting belief, values. So it's really about transcending fears and limiting belief so you can live according to your values, you know, and that allows you to rise in consciousness. And to let go the focus on you, to put it on others, to go, make a shift from I to we and all this kind of stuff. And then I do coaching. I'm coaching actually a woman now from Kenya who lives in Morocco. I'm coaching people around the world. And that's more private, then we can really accelerate the transformation process. So, what I'm trying to help people do is what I've done myself for 15 years. 15 years ago, I was really lucky to, be exposed to transformation leadership. I've transformed myself many, many times, and I'm doing it every day. I see every life event, every trauma, every upset as an opportunity for a breakthrough. Out of every breakdown, there's always a seed for a breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And I've transformed many businesses to be conscious and to make so much money that people couldn't believe it. They said, wow, but that's like a miracle. I said, yeah, it's a miracle because it's based on love. We just take away the fear and you'll see people rise. And I've also discovered that most people perform probably at 50% of their true potential because they spend so much time on fears, limiting beliefs, and worry. If we can help them let go of that, then they can actually win the championship. That's how champions win. So that's my work, and I called it the International Center because I've always been a global guy. I built business jets for 1,000 people in 135 countries. So I'm used to work very, very global. And, because I want to live a good human life, I've committed myself to create events that I would love to attend, to meet people I would love to meet in countries that I would love to visit, so I just go. And since I surrendered in October last year to serve consciousness, I'm really a servant of universal consciousness. I go when I'm asked to go. I was asked to go to Spain. I went to Spain. I'm talking to you. I don't fight it. I just follow the guidance. I have discretion. I don't work with anyone. But, I was asked to go work with an oil company in France. And some people challenged me, why are you going to the devil, It's because if they actually need my help, that means they want to transform. So yes, if I want to bring some light, I need to go where there's some darkness. And the more efficient I am to bring light, the more darkness I'm going to face. I'm accepting that. So that's my quest, to bring this love and light and to create space for people to transform so they can rise in consciousness. And then together we can create, co-create a promising future for all the generations that will come.
I love what you share about the way you refer to your Paris experience, your French experience with that oil company. And it's for me very, very interesting that how people look at light and dark. Not that such a perspective is right or wrong, it simply is. But the people who are here to transform, catalysts and bridges and all sorts of interesting titles we give it, but at the core of it is to ignite, and like you say, awaken humanity in its conscious evolution. So who are the people then who needs those catalysts? Not the people who's already awakened or in their journey. It's the ones who's not. So how can we judge them? So you become the judger of the judged. It's very interesting. And one should make that mind shift, how people are opening up. Because in our experience, if you walk into a room of leaders, especially leaders, and you have all these judgments about them, that they're so bad and they do all these things and they misbehave so much, and you don't look for that goodness that you were speaking about earlier, you get exactly what you were looking at. So if you're looking for those dark parts, so to say, you will receive it. It will just make your journey more difficult. Whereas if you choose to see that beauty in them and that spark in them, that spark will respond to you. We have talking about Africa, we have a lovely proverb that says, and there's a Scandinavian one that's very similar, look for the king and the king will come out. Mm-hmm. And in practice, I also have experience of that, where I challenge leaders to actually do that with their people and to see how their behavior change. And it happens overnight. Mm-hmm. It's magical. There's no logical reason for it. But it's because you're looking to see the good in the other and to see.
But I think there's a principle called the Pygmalion effect. So whatever you see in someone, they will rise to that. So I concentrate on. Yesterday I had a call with someone, a potential collaborator, and there was a lot of comments made about my way of being. You know, I'm not sure that I like the way you are. I said, I understand, but I actually like the way I am, you know, and every day I'm giving my best to be the best that I can. So if you don't like it, then that's okay. We don't have to cooperate, but I choose to see the beauty and the genius in everyone. You know, yeah, everyone I meet, there's things I could criticize, but I choose to ignore that. I choose, you know, when I'm really focusing, I choose to see what's beautiful about this person and what's the genius, and then to see how can we cooperate, how can I. And so when I work with leaders, I see the potential in them. I see their full potential, and I try to help them see it too. And sometimes they have to climb on my shoulder and to say, okay, can you see that mountain there? That's what's available for you. Do you want it? Yes, I want it. Okay, then we can work together. If they can't see it and if they don't want it, then it's useless. I can't spend my time, because I've let go of trying to convince everyone. You know, a very wise teacher of mine in India said, presence means three things, three mantras. I have nothing to defend, nothing to prove, nothing to promote. So I know that what I bring is, you know, is important. If you choose to listen to me, then it's perfect. If you choose not to, then I don't have to. You know, I'm just going to go to the next person. You know, there's a singer in Montreal called Leonard Cohen, and I think he quoted, I don't think it's one of his poems, but in one of his songs, he says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So I work with people where there's already a crack. I don't make the crack because it takes too much of my effort. But when someone has a crack, and very often it has happened because they've had serious life challenges, they were fired, they were divorced, they had a health concern. This is usually when we start to reflect on life, you know, to maybe consider that the societal program doesn't always work. And then I come in and I can really help these people. But when there's no crack, when they're just stuck in the program and they're saying, you know, I just want to make money, I just want my new car, then I'm just wasting my time. You know, I would love to convince them, but it takes too much energy. So, you know, life is short. I mean, we live probably many lives, but this life is quite short. So, you know, I prefer to work with people where there's, you know, an opening. But I agree with you. For me, I use beauty a lot. You know, someone taught me about beauty, a photographer. And to be honest, I used to think when I was young, beauty was just a beautiful woman. Now I know that, that beauty is so much more, you know, so much more. And I see life with the eyes of a photographer. You know, when you're a photographer, everything is a potential shot, you know. So I see in everyone, wow, this person was born with these talents. Wow. You know, some singers, you know, wow, it's a God-given talent, you know, some athletes, some artists. And I think even business people, some people have a very special talent, you know. And I think everyone has a special talent. I think most people have not recognized what it is, you know.
I think that's the journey to discover that part. And I want to now share another perspective with you and to see what unfolds when we explore that perhaps together, if you resonate with it. Recently, I came across this most beautiful piece of writing of a woman, and she wrote about your personal destiny and your universal destiny. And the personal one was you coming into your being, you being blissful, you being completely coming into your divine essence, however you want to express that. And then the universal destiny for her was your contribution to the evolution of humanity. And now sometimes these two paths cross, they become one, they can become one, but a lot of people still experience them like little bits here, little bits there. So today in the world, you've got many, many people doing amazing things, which is contributed to the evolution of humankind or how we treat the planet. And then the parts come because they don't take care of that personal destiny. Then when you speak about the shadow stuff earlier, then that stuff comes to the fore, especially in a group context. So how do you play with something like that? Especially if you have a conference and with people who already have cracks. So people is already ready to do the journey. I don't want to call it the work. For me, it's more a journey, to do the journey, to make that deep, deep discovery. Because I've seen how so many of these beautiful groups of people doing amazing things, they get held back because they don't really spend time on the one and only on the other one. So it's very interesting to see, especially in a business environment where you have people who's really awakening, who's coming into their true being, who wants to do things differently, and then there's the other part. So how do you marry these two things?
But you know, for me, it's what I've discovered in my journey of becoming a conscious leader is that consciousness and leadership and good business go hand in hand. They actually create better results. So, you know, in 2008, I became VP for the first time of a very, very struggling business unit that had lost $250 million Canadian in 10 years and was losing 50 million every year. And 22 months later, not even 2 years, we were making 50 million, you know, a swing at 100 million in 22 months. People had never seen that. They said, wow, how can you have done that? And they hired this big consultant from Boston to come and interview me. And I just told them, I just love people like no one ever loved them. I limited fear. I just took away fear from my organization. I told my 3,000 team members, I'll take away the stuff from the senior management. You just go and focus on creating transformation. I'll take away any mistakes you make. I'll take the blame for it. Don't make the same mistakes 5 times. That would be quite stupid. But no, I expect you to make mistakes because you're going to try to do something we've never done. And this was, nobody told me to do that. And I've never read that in books. This was truly inspired. You know, I was 42 years old. And so far, it's probably the biggest accomplishment I've ever made. But through to that, I had to transform myself. You know, first year of that assignment, I was really struggling as a leader. I would have fired myself if I was my boss because I was failing. You know, the business was still losing money. We were delivering these big business jets late. My family didn't like me so much. I was never there. You know, my whole life was in shambles. But after 1 year during the summer vacation, when I embraced myself and I said, okay, I'm actually the right guy. And they didn't fire me yet. So I said, okay, so maybe I'm the right guy. Then I embraced my true mission. I let go of my fear of, you know, disappointing. And then, you know, another 14 months later, we created this huge breakthrough, which actually went so much faster than I thought it would. So to me, you talked about the divine before. This whole leadership was divinely guided. You know, I was asked to do things that I didn't know I could do. The guidance came from my own inspiration. So I now know how the divine works. You know, he plants these inspirations into our psyche and our brain. So we think it's ours, but it's really not ours. So this mission was carried through me. And so this is what I tell business people. You know, I'm always cautious to talk about spirituality. But, you know, we can talk about science. We can talk about quantum physics, which basically proves the same thing scientifically. I tell people, once you commit to a greater cause, once you commit to serve humanity, and you know you sell products that actually do that, you will make so much more money. You can't even dream how much you're going to make, because it's a love. You know, your clients will love you, so they'll buy more from you, or they'll actually pay more sometimes. Your employees will love, and they'll come to work even though they're sick. They're actually going to give their very, very best for you. So what I found is that as I loved my team, they love me back. And when team members love you, they show up on time for work, they produce quality work, they take care of clients. Sometimes I buy products like you from, you know, companies like phone companies and stuff like that, airlines. And the way I get treated as a client is not so good. And I'm saying, poor employee, you know, I'm so sad the way because you probably get really bad treated. You know, it's like most abusers were abused when they were kids, you know, most you know, the people that are in prison, we should have compassion for them because they probably didn't get a lot of love, you know. So that's how I tell business people is the combination of consciousness and love and leadership that does not exclude the abundance and making profit. It actually accentuates it. It makes it better. And because long term, short term, you can always make more money by cutting costs and being a rude leader. But long term, love pays off, you know, big time, big time.
Now I have a question for you. What about, when you talk about self-love, what does that mean to you?
What it means for me is to let go of perfectionism. You know, it took me 45 years to let go of perfectionism. I really coached my son when he was a teenager to let go really young because I could see he had developed it through my own way of being. So to let go of perfectionism, to stop beating myself up, to accept that life is a school. Yeah, it is a journey. I agree with you. But I think it's also a school. You know, so every event that happens is actually perfect for the growth of our souls. So we just need to see the lesson in it. And the lesson will keep coming back until we actually learn the lesson. Two, radical self-love also includes radical self-care. You know, I'm a giver, you know, as a catalyst for other people. I give, I give, I give. There's so many people suffering. I can help everyone. And then in the past, I used to be the last person to care for me. So what I do now is I wake up really early because I have, you know, I love my morning routine. I love to spend a couple of hours in the dark with no one talking to me. And then I use it for self-care. You know, I use it for, you know, reading, inspirational. I was at the gym this morning, I meditated, and I'm so charged of energy now because I know if I do this really well, I can actually do more. I can actually bring more love to everyone. So it's no different than you taking a plane. You know, if there's an issue, you put your own mask before you put your children's mask. So I've discovered that caring for me is not selfish. It's actually an act of love. Because if I'm truly well, I can bring even more love, you know. So that's and to be honest, last year after a couple of depressions, after even contemplating suicide, you know, I finally one day fell in love with myself. I said, "Wow, what an incredible being you are, Stephane. You know, the Creator created you. Wow." Which is why now I can bring this unconditional love to other people, you know. And it's quite a journey because a lot of people cannot cope with all this love. They're always wondering, what do you want from me? I want nothing from you, you know. Maybe you can give me a wink of gratitude, but that's all. I mean, I don't want anything from you. And I can see that a lot of people don't have enough self-love because when you give them all that love, their container for love is too small. They can't take all of it, you know, so they kind of reject all of it. So it's you know, it's falling in love with ourselves, seeing the beauty in ourselves first, the genius, and also having practices to give ourselves, you know, radical self-care, which takes discipline. You know, I don't, you know, to me, meditating is like brushing my teeth, going to the gym. I mean, I have so many other things to do, but now I try to see the beauty of it. I listen to audiobooks. I use it as fun, you know, and I'm trying to give myself a break. You know, I don't need to do an hour and a half. You know, if I can do 30 minutes of exercise every day, then it's, you know, it actually is life-changing.
I think it's very important, especially because the specific series, we're really focusing on sharing other possibilities with our ones who came more recently. We don't like the expression of younger generations. We prefer the ones who came more recently. Is that self-love is the first thing a parent should actually teach a child on how to take care of yourself and how to love yourself. So that's very important, especially in today's life that's so fast and there's so many distractions, so many requests for our attention, because you can easily then get overwhelmed. So it is a good, healthy practice to do something for yourself, whatever time of the day it is. And I'm also like you. I wake up very early, and then I have my own special time. When the earth is still still, when there's not so much movement yet, especially if I'm in the city, you have so much more potential to really connect to every part of yourself and to however you see the divine and your experience of it. But it is that quiet time that gives us that energy. And people, usually, it's for them a contradiction when you say the quiet time versus action. They see you doing nothing in quiet time. You're actually doing a lot, although you're not actively doing something. And even like you say, I go on my running and walking expeditions every morning early in nature. And it usually finds me, no matter where I travel, I'll find water very close to where I have accommodation and nature. But even when I'm running or walking, I'm still inside. So that's my time. And then all these creative ideas come. And then I have to rush home to quickly write them down and I don't forget them all. Because the human part of me still believes I'll forget them. I know I won't, but it's just part of my nature. But it is these type of practices and things we do for ourselves. Because like you said earlier, if we don't take care of ourselves, how on earth can we serve humanity? It's impossible. And I would also want to stress on something about the self-love part when you spoke about when you give love to other people. that some cannot receive it yet. That is not, like you say, the container is too small yet for all that love to come up. And it's sadly that we have, for me, it's sad that we have all these stereotyping. That in terms of any types of relationship, it doesn't matter whatever you have that container for, whether it's business, personal, friendship, whatever it is, that you're supposed to now act like this. And that when you then shower someone in love, they see something different, they look for something different. They try to get a reason of why is this person showering me with love? What do I want from me, like you said? I've got that same experience. And I had to change it for myself. And it doesn't matter if the other person cannot receive it. It's about me just being it. And it doesn't matter if that person receives 2% or 3%, it doesn't matter. It's around us, it's there. Which leads me to something else that I want to explore with you in terms of leadership. You know, the word leadership for me, having played in that for a long time as well, is that leadership has many different meanings. People, especially what they do with younger people these days, the ones who came more recently, they send them on all sorts of leadership courses at a very young age. And then there's all this pressure on them to perform. And they go to all these lots and lots of leadership academies. And there's nothing wrong with those. I'm simply exploring that the word leadership maybe must be redefined, or we need to find another word. Because of people thought that if you're like a CXO level person in business, you're a leader. A manager is not a leader. It's two very different roles in terms of business. How do you see that? The role of a manager and the role of a real leader. Because for me, a receptionist can be a leader.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so for me, there's a big distinction between a manager and a leader. So a manager manages the status quo, you know, just it's like the operational part of a business, for example. We need to hire people, we need to pay them, we need to collect, you know, doing meetings, KPIs. Management is from the brain. Leadership is from the heart. It's about touching people's heart. And, you know, it starts, you cannot be a leader if you don't have a vision, because, you know, you're trying to lead people somewhere. And if you have no vision, they're not going to go where you know, they're going to follow you, but they have no clue where you're trying to go. And they will follow you on the path, but they will not be very excited because they don't see the vision that you have. And it also requires, you know, leadership requires a shift from I to we. So it's a very inclusive, you know, I actually use my talent, my power, my position to help other people grow. You know, I developed since 15 years a big focus on talent development. You know, it was my biggest, one of my biggest importance. You know, I spent 50% of my time when I was a senior VP grooming people to grow, because that's how, you know, we can have the better team, and that's how we can achieve better results. And I think very few people do that. You know, most people I see in business, we call them leaders, but they're actually managers. They spend their time managing the day-to-day KPIs, report, PowerPoints, all this kind of stuff. And it's all from the brain. And I've come to a point where someone talks to me from the brain. I'm quite intelligent. I think I'm quite intelligent. I can understand very complicated things, but touch my heart. If you don't touch my heart, then I don't have a lot of time, because I think, you know, the heart, the brain is attached to the ego. The heart is attached to the soul. You want to touch people's soul, go through the heart, which means love. So, you know, brain, ego, fear, heart, love, soul. So I think leaders may not use this language of love and soul, but true leaders they create a context where people feel really safe emotionally, you know, where people can try things, where people can fail, where people can grow. And they create a very safe context. You know, yes, there's an expectation, you know, we want to win, we want to grow, but they do it through a lot of kindness, care, compassion, understanding that people are also on a journey of life, trying to heal many, many things. And what they do, they first worry about themselves. You know, before they ask anyone to do anything, they will do it themselves. You know, if I ask you to transform, I will have gone on a transformation journey so I can lead by role modeling. I think the higher you become, the higher you are in an organization, and the more conscious you are, the more you're wise enough to realize that you actually do nothing physically. I mean, all you do as a senior leader is you send emails and you talk and listen to people because everyone else does everything for you. But what you do is you create a context. And how do you create a context? Through your way of being. So even as a catalyst now, I'm discovering that it's not about talking anymore. It's about being. Whoever comes into my space, will feel, oh, this is what consciousness feels like. I mean, I listened to Eckhart Tolle, who came to Montreal a few months ago. He says, you guys are all coming here. There was 6,000 of us. To hear you know exactly what I'm going to say because it's all in my book and it's all on video. But he says, you're coming here to experience the vibration of a higher consciousness being. That's why you're coming here. Let's just be honest. And me talking to you is just a way in 3D we share information. But really, through every word that I say, there is a vibration. That's what you will experience. And actually, that's what I experience, And just an anecdote, everything I could have said the same thing because that's what I believe. The difference with me and him is he incarnates it, he embodies it. I'm still on the journey to embody all he said. I agree. It's an intellectual exercise, but I'm making the journey into my body. So that's what leaders are. Leaders create a context for people to thrive and realize things that are so much bigger than themselves. And they inspire people to what I call true greatness, to realize things that they never thought they could even accomplish, but as a team, we realize these things. And I've done it time and time again, to be honest, I would count, I mean, it wouldn't even take my whole hand to count the people that I've managed that I would call true leaders. There's very few. Because most of them were managers, and they would only talk about KPIs, results, and lead with a lot of fear, trying to find faults. And, like many times I was assessed, performance evaluations and stuff like that. And I said, why so much focus on what's wrong with me? Aren't we gonna spend time celebrating what's right with me? Most performance evaluation programs or even assessments, to promote someone are based on, okay, what's wrong with you? Oh, you're not good enough. Why don't we spend time celebrating, all these great qualities that people have? So I talked a lot, but leaders are very special. To be honest, I think they're very few. And I think conscious leaders, unfortunately, right now are very, very few. But my quest is to allow, help a lot more leaders become true leaders and also become conscious leaders.
Now,
because I think humanity needs it,
so how do these leaders find you?
Pardon me?
How do these leaders, these conscious leaders that you're speaking about now that you help, how do they find you?
They find me because I'm quite active on social media. I write a lot. And I write in a very authentic way. I just share my journey. I've already shared my biggest post on LinkedIn was when I talked about my deep depression or the day I got fired from a big company. And people love that because it's all true, So I discovered from the greatest spiritual teachers that when you actually talk about real life, you don't have to make it up. Life is actually already enough exciting. You don't have to pretend, just share honestly. And a lot of people that are coming to me, they want this honest truth, this rawness, because they say, okay, so this guy's already been on the path, so maybe he can guide me on the path. And there's a lot of people who are teachers and coaches, and it's intellectual exercise. They've read a book and now they want to teach you, but they've never been on the path themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of coaches have never managed a business. They've never failed in business. So it's a theoretical exercise. Yeah, they're good coaches. They've learned the techniques to coach. But unless you've actually managed a business yourself, unless you live the pressure at quarter end and what it is to fire hundreds of people because the business has gone down, then your credibility is not as great, So that's it. So I'm very honest about what I stand for. In the beginning, I used to be criticized for talking about love and leadership. And I said, I cannot not talk about love and leadership because that's who I am. I'm love. And that's been my journey for 15 years, a leader with full of love. So I choose to be authentic. I choose to show who I really am. And the people that are ready for what I stand for, call me. And they're calling from around the world. And, I serve them when they come to me.
I feel it's the embodiment part that attracts them.
It's what?
It's the embodiment part that attracts them.
Yeah.
And I totally resonate with what you share about coaches, and with all respect to all coaches. I come out of the consulting world, and there we had something very similar. Somebody who could learn from the book how to be a consultant could not code because they never have been in a business and experienced all those things that a business experience. So coaches, for me, much the same. And even if it's on a personal level, if a coach didn't go through a personal journey themselves or are on one, and then for me, one should ask questions. One should be very, very discerning. Not to judge anybody, but you have to really consider these things. But there's something else that came up while you were sharing about how they didn't really, the leaders didn't really appreciate you talking about love in the beginning. Is I once I did a few leadership breakfast workshops, which was very, very successful. And the same leaders came every single time. And during the one, and I used to make them play a lot, by doing very creative things that they can come out of their minds into their hearts. And this specific one leader, he was the most beautiful man. And through one of the games we played, he picked a card that said love. And I asked him, so how can you bring more love into your life and then into your organization? And he was quiet. He said to me, but I can, in my private life, it's perfect, my wife, my children, my family. But how can I bring love into my business world? They will go and report me for abuse. I said, no, we're not talking about romantic love. So I think when you speak about love, one has to be very clear, because people have some different misconceptions of all the types of love that's out there. But the love, like you said, we speak about here is not that type of love. But it did trigger something, because the next time, in the next session he came, he was curious. He said, I really need you to help me how I can bring more love into my organization. And that was wonderful. That for me is what the catalyst is about. You trigger that initial awareness inside out, not outside in. And that spark becoming to burn, and then suddenly they want more, they need more, they know there's more here. And like you say, because you embody it, that's just how when I sense into all you share, is the embodiment part of you that gives you the credibility, and not how many letters you have behind your name or how many quantifications. It's what a leader embodies, how they speak, how they connect to others, how they listen to others. Which now leads me to something very interesting. How do you transform and become a bridge or a catalyst to get people from, especially in terms of leadership, to come from evaluate to elevate?
I mean, we go back to embodiment, you know, in this type of leadership, you know, the challenge we have is society's programs. You know, anybody that has gone to school has been programmed to believe that the world is competition, that it's all about working hard and making money and consuming. This is what everyone gets programmed, including our kids when they go to school, unless they go to some alternative school. So we have to allow people to understand that there is another way. And to be honest, most people I meet are quite ready for that. Because business is full of suffering, you know, stress, depression, unfulfillment. You know, people feel they're being used. They work really hard and then they're disposed, you know, they're fired because the company decides to change. And because people are giving money and severance packages, anything can be done. You know, it's just like, it amazed me that I worked for 23 years for a big company, made hundreds of millions for them. And then one day in 10 minutes, I was gone, and they gave me a package and that supposedly made it all okay, not knowing that it completely destroyed my confidence and the impact it had on my family. In hindsight, I thought it was a gift of, you know, it was the grace of God, because now I'm free to do what I really want to do. Because I figured that to change the system, you need to be outside the system. If you're inside the system, you're controlled, you know, they control you by fear and money. So I think you know, for me, the greatest skill that I have, I think, is I have two great skills, I think. Is a master connector. I connect people, you know, very wise people around the world with people that need the wisdom. So in some cases, I'm a midwife, You know, I
Mhm.
bring wise people to the consumer of wisdom. Through that, you know, I usually gain a bit of wisdom myself. So through the years, I'm also a wisdom teacher up to a level. But the other thing is I create really safe spaces, you know, for people to actually come together. And a very wise person told me, a good leader is a good human, you know. So what I'm really working hard is to allow leaders to become good humans, to fully embrace their humanity or their flaws and their strengths and their weaknesses, to look courageously at their fears and limiting belief, which has basically been transferred to them by their parents and society, and to overcome them so they can live with their value. Just that creates such a transformation. You know, people are, wow, they feel light, they feel free. And, you know, to be honest, some of our fears and limiting belief, we may never transcend them. You know, they may be present, but they no longer control us. You know, we're managing them. I teach people, I said, you know, all your life has been run by your ego. And then one day your soul comes in and says to your ego, thank you so much for driving the bus. Would you mind sitting on the passenger seat now? You know, you can guide me and be the GPS, but I'm going to be doing the driving now, you know? So it's a partnership. You know, it's not about destroying the ego, because, you know, you cannot live a human life without an ego. We all need an ego. But it's about managing and overcoming the fears and limiting belief of the ego, so the soul can thrive and the soul can live with its value and can fully express. And, you know, and it's not easy. At 45 years old, I wrote in a book, my life mission, which is to do what I do now. It took me 5 years to gain the courage to do it. Even though I was managing 3,000 people and a revenues of $2.5 billion, I didn't think I had what it took to become an entrepreneur and guide other people. You know, how crazy is that? Because I think I'm quite effective at doing it. But I had to jump in one day. You know, I had to have life events that happened to me to finally say, the hell with that. I'm just going to try it. And what's the worst that can happen? I fail. Okay, I failed many times before. And to be, you know, to be honest, I'm quite successful now. So it's, you know, because I'm serving this consciousness, is bringing me the right people. Not everyone. You know, I mostly spend my time with people that will themselves become catalysts to change society. That's who I coach. I don't coach people that only want to make more money. They're not attracted to me. So most people I coach are true, authentic people that I think have a lot to give to the world, that are stuck, you know, and then I help them to get over the threshold. And then poof, it's just expansion. And they go around and, you know, sometimes we cooperate together on some projects. Sometimes they go off on their own, which is perfectly fine. So that's it. So it's about showing the way, showing what's possible, in terms of contribution, in terms of joy, in terms of results also, but also creating a safe space for people to transform, you know, to observe their life, observe who they are, and then maybe transcend some of their fears and limiting beliefs.
That's quite an expansive energy. As you were speaking, I'm very sensitive, so I feel it in my body. And it was very interesting where my body, I was feeling when you were sharing this last bit about that. And for me, that's always very fascinating to know how that in the physical is here. It's not something that you don't talk about things that some people might consider woo stuff. It's not, it's real. It's here. It impacts on our lives every single day. Just tell me, what is your aspiration then for humanity? You know, the old way of working in the world, we were speaking about 5-year plans and 10-year plans, and we're not interested in that on my planet. We're more interested in to begin to share between ourselves that we actually have a feeling where we actually intersect. And you spoke about collaboration earlier, and for us it's about co-creating, co-generating as well. And it's giving each other a platform to share what we do and what we're about, moreover what we are about, not so much what we do, but it's one and the same thing, it comes through. But what would you say, if a young person asked you today, what's your aspirations for humanity? What would that be?
It's not an aspiration, it's my commitment to co-create that. It's to co-create a space where all living beings can thrive, which means that all living beings can live in peace, love, joy, and harmony. That's what, and you know, some spiritual people would call this heaven on earth. To me, it's a space where every living beings that gets born can thrive. It's the opposite of what's happening now, where most humans are barely surviving and humanity is basically destroying everything that moves. So it's the opposite of that. Because, we don't need to eat animals. If we actually stopped eating meat, we would stop eating beef, at least we would reduce pollution by 20%. Okay, so it is, I just read this morning that it takes 50,000 liters of water to create 1 pound of beef. How crazy is that? And there's some people that can't drink. So as you become conscious of all these things, then you can actually take action. Okay, so I can actually change my eating habits. I may not solve all the population, but I'm going to make my contribution. So my quest is to make people conscious. Okay, this is because consciousness is love in action. It's like it's in the action. I can be meditating in my living room and oh yeah, I'm all zen, but it's when I go out in society that the rubber hits the road. There are some very wise spiritual teachers that actually don't live a life that is so conscious. Sometimes it's just about money and this, and they yell at people. That doesn't work. So it's really, there are some very spiritual people that do that too. So there's some people in the US that are supposedly Christian that defend gun owning rights. They bless the guns of what is that? That's not spirituality for me. And I'm judging here, but it doesn't resonate. So for me, it's about, for a young person, it's about living with our values. We are born perfect, to be honest. When we're born, we don't hate anyone. We're born out of love, most of us. We're so gorgeous. We're so beautiful. We're naturally empathic. You see kids from, a black a girl playing with a Muslim boy. They don't care. They just play together, just like animals would do. Put different breeds of dogs together. They're just going to play. And then all the bad stuff we learn, we learn, oh, I need to hate this, I need to hate that. Or a girl is supposed to be like that, or a boy is supposed. We create so much limitations. So I think it's creating a space where everyone can fully express and we can live in love, joy, harmony, and peace.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
And we don't need to take drugs for that. The drug is love. Some people take drugs to achieve those ecstasy states. I think I don't need drugs. I have drugs every day. It's just love. That's enough for me.
I think we're talking about the same ecstasy that we speak about when we speak about joy. It's also doesn't cost you a penny. No. You don't have to go into dangerous places to get it, and you don't feel bad the next day. It's more. It infuses every single day. It's natural. It's like your breath that you take the first thing that you did when you came into this world. And that ecstasy, that joy, love, peace, harmony, however one wants to experience and express it, it's an energy that is so prolific. And it's like you say, I love what you said in the beginning about the money and the leadership. And that if you go into a space of love, and you do things from that place, and you see that in others, abundance is part of it. You can never be impoverished. There are many rich people who have impoverished souls. So we're not talking about the amount of money you have in the bank account, but we're not saying money is bad either. It's simply that abundance in so many forms, and abundance is not only money. It's the quality of your relationships, the type of experiences you have every single day. It's about so much more than the physical things we think we can buy or consume. So thank you for that, Stephane. And now I would like to ask you if you have a specific message for the young ones. So if you're making a mark today for them, the mark that you make in the world for them today, what would that be? Like that,
the message,
that bricks behind you, putting another brick in the wall.
Yeah, the message I tell everyone is that we are here to fully express. We are beings of love. We should live with love. All the fears are created. They're just illusions from the ego. And the second message is that separation does not exist. We're all intimately connected through this energy network because, we're just materialization of universal consciousness or whatever you want to call it. So all these things that we do to each other, we're actually doing to ourselves. So to embrace unity and to live a life of love.
That feels very good in my body. Thank you. And everyone who's watching this and engaging with us in this later, I would want to invite you to watch it at least 2 times and to listen to it at least 2 times, because in my experience, when we hear something, and like you said earlier, your experience with Eckhart, you didn't share something different from what you knew necessarily, but it's the vibration of what was being shared. Mm. And when we do something for a second time like that, the first time around it might be new or just a different context that we're used to, and there's not a frame of reference in our mind for it yet. But the second time around, I'd like to invite everyone to go into the feeling part. Where do you feel in your body? Are there any sensations coming up? Any textures, any colors, anything? Because then we know the energy is flowing. And to share this beautiful Your World and Mine explorations with everyone is the purpose of that. It's exactly that. We want to create this flow. And we want Stephane to go and do all sorts of interesting, I call experiences all across the globe. Wherever you find yourself, we want Stephane to be there as well, that he can be your catalyst, but also you can become a catalyst, that we can take this deep out into the world. So Stephane, thank you very much for joining us today. And I would like to ask you if it's possible that we can leave all your contact details at the end of the podcast for the people. Would that be okay? We share it later.
Yeah. That'd be a pleasure, yes.
Great, because we want for other people to connect with you and to explore together with you. And for me, what you are, you say you're a catalyst, but you're also a cat. You know, these yellow cats in New York City. All around. We're not about that crazy, but for me, a cat is a catalyst and a bridge. Mm. Because once you catalyze something, there must be a bridge between the old world and the new world that you're stepping into, that you're becoming aware of. Mm. So I think you're also a cat. So welcome to the Yellow Joy Cats.
Thank you.
So thank you, Stephane, for joining us today. And we look forward to another exploration sometime.
It'd be such a pleasure, and I can't wait to go to South Africa to do some conscious leadership events. So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
That's wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And love, peace, joy, harmony. Yeah. Those are the ones we're looking for. Thank you. Goodbye.